This whole Sharon Moore story with Michigan has to be one of the wildest college football stories in a while. At first, it looked like he was just getting fired because he was having an affair with a female staffer, but it quickly became apparent that a lot more happened. Coaching crashouts aren't super rare in the world of college football, so this whole Sharon Moore scandal had me thinking about some of the bigger coaching crashouts in the last 25. While Moore is just the latest, he certainly wasn't the first, so I want to quickly go through some of the more memorable crash outs we've seen from coaches. I do want to keep this somewhat light, so I'm not going to go into some of the darker crash outs, but I am going to talk about some of the crazier ones. First, we got to talk about Steve Sarkisian. It's easy to forget that he had a pretty huge crash out with the USC Trojans before he eventually landed back with Texas. Back in 2014, it started coming out that Sarkisian was having issues with USC, and it was because he was allegedly showing up to games and practices drunk. The whole thing kind of became a huge deal when he showed up to a USC kind of fan celebration hammered. He was eventually fired and let go, and he had to build back up his resume before he was able to get a big college head coaching job now, and luckily it looks like he's sober, but man, that was a big deal for USC about a decade ago. We also got to talk about Mike Leach, who got kind of wrapped up in a scandal with this player named Adam James. Apparently the player suffered a concussion, and they just placed him in this room and told him to stay there and didn't do any necessary treatment to help his concussion. This led to Leach being pushed out, and he had a chance to coach his final bowl game with the team, but he refused to apologize to James for the whole incident. This is one of the wilder ones I can remember because it was just so unnecessary. It wasn't like salacious or anything. It just seemed like total coaching malpractice. That said, RIP Mike Leach, who was definitely one of the more entertaining coaches in college football. Before Lane Kiffin, Hugh Freeze kind of had Ole Miss humming as like a real program, and it was like this huge turnaround. Well, it turns out that he was allegedly using escort services to help kind of convince recruits to come to the team, along with a bunch of other shady things he was doing. He was eventually caught calling this escort service over a dozen times by Ole Miss, and they fired him for it. Lastly, we absolutely have to talk about Bobby Petrino, who might have had the most memorable crash out in college football history. This is a huge story. Bobby Petrino was one of the top coaches in college football, having Arkansas humming, and he got in this major car accident, shows up to a press conference all like beaten and bandaged, with a neck brace on. Well, it turns out he was on that motorcycle with one of his staffers who he was having an affair with, who also got hurt. It was this huge thing. He ended up getting fired, and while he was able to kind of build back his career up, he's now not coaching, and yeah, nobody can forget the image of him in that neck brace. It remains to be seen where Moore's crash out will go in the history of college football, but man, everything we're hearing so far, it's definitely going to be up there with one of the biggest.